Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the first of the many videos that I would make pertaining to the quarantine journey that I have. So I am here in Cebu, Philippines. I just arrived yesterday and I'm currently on my day 2 of quarantine, hotel quarantine for that. For those who don't know, I came from Norway. That's the country where I am residing together with my husband. I got married 2 years ago. The reason why I live in Norway. However, because of this pandemic, I wasn't able to visit the Philippines for almost 2 years now. And I want to share with you a message of hope, a message of faith, and of course, message of the Father's love, because this journey of mine is not possible if not because I have a great good father with me. So now to my journey. So since I'm now on my day 2 of quarantine, I am here in the Philippines for just 2 days since yesterday. I'm gonna share with you the preparations I made prior to my travel, as well as the quarantine protocols, because I've been receiving a lot of messages from friends, both in my Instagram and in my Facebook, asking me what are the quarantine protocols, because in this time when there's still, rigorous process or protocols because of the community quarantine in the Philippines, the cases are rising, they're not slowing down. And the vaccinated population here in this country is just 50% or roughly 50%. So why did I come here to the Philippines in spite of all that, in spite of the uncertainties, in spite of the risks? It's because my mother's going to celebrate her birthday on the 18th of October, and I want to surprise her on her birthday because I believe life is precious and time is precious, especially with our loved ones. I don't want to live life with regrets. If something happens, of course, I don't wish for that. But if something happens, I can say that I did everything humanly possible in my capacity with the help of God to be able to spend time, quality time with my mom during that time that she's still strong, healthy, and able. So now to my quarantine journey. A month ago, I was hesitating whether I should go to the Philippines or not. I wanted to be there for my mom on her birthday because it will be her 69th birthday. But as I was looking at the flights online, I saw that the prices were exorbitant. They were like you're paying for business class, but you're just flying economy. So I even went straight to the website of Emirates Airlines, KLM, Singapore Airlines, but to no avail. I could not find a flight from Norway or Bergen, the city where I was based, to Philippines, in particular Manila, because I have a condo there. So what I did instead is just to book my own self-connecting flights. So I went to fin.no. It's a Norwegian search website for everything you need, like flights, hotels, even houses, even things that you need at home. So I went there, I clicked Risa or travel. I chose airfare or flights. And then I saw that there was a flight from Bergen, Norway to Singapore. And then I clicked that. I booked a ticketing agency through a ticketing agency that was reputable. In Norway, we have ticket.no. So it's one of the best, if not the best, tour or ticketing offices in Norway. So I booked my flight from Bergen to Singapore with a layover in Copenhagen, Denmark. So afterwards, I booked another flight direct from Scoot website from Singapore to Cebu, Philippines. So now I have two itineraries. So one ticket from Bergen, Norway to Singapore with layover in Denmark, and then another ticket from Singapore to the Philippines, Cebu in particular. So my challenge is that Singapore currently is on red zone. They are also experiencing similar rise of cases as in the Philippines. So what I did this time, my challenge was that how to connect them. So I called Singapore Airlines, their hotline in Norway, if it's possible for them to connect all my flights so I don't have to print my boarding pass in the middle during transit. However, they could not do that because I have two different reference codes. So what I did, I just, surrendered everything to God because I believe it's Him who enables things. And I believe that it's coming from Him, this desire for me to come to the Philippines and be with my mom for her birthday. So I forget about that. I stopped worrying. And then now to the next part. So since I'm gonna have a layover in Singapore, one of the requirements in layover, even though you're just in transit and Singapore is not your final destination, is to have a PCR test showing that you have negative COVID results. So that should be valid 48 hours since you take the test and your flight from wherever destination to Singapore. So what I did, since my flight was yesterday, not yesterday, but my flight was actually on Monday, the 4th of October, I did a PCR test 2 days prior, 48 hours before. That was a Saturday on October 2. So I did it with Bergen Comuna. It's a sponsored facility of the Bergen municipality in Norway. So it was totally free. I did my test at 12 noon. I got the result at 9 in the evening through the website that they sent all the results. So afterwards, I printed the results out. So that's why I have these COVID certificates with me. So aside from the digital copies, I also did print them out so that I don't have the hassle in case they would ask me and then I would have to browse my phone and then be rattled during the process. So these are the EU certificates, European Union certificates, because traveling internationally, they honor EU certificates because it's recognized by the World Health Organization. So I do have another certificate which is from Norway. They won't recognize this outside of Norway, but they will recognize EU certificate. So since I had full vaccination already done, 2 doses already done in Norway, I also had them printed out. So here, I have 3 certificates for that matter. So there. So the first one is I never had COVID in the past. So that's one. The second one is that I have vaccination already against COVID. So I completed 2 doses. So they indicated it here. And then the third one is my recent corona test. So the one that I was talking about 48 hours prior to my flight. So it shows here negative test results. So I have these printed out. So my next challenge is to register or to check in online. So I save myself the hassle of checking in at the airport. However, since my passport's validity is less than 6 months, so it's gonna expire on March 2022. I'm traveling on October, so it's like 5 months valid. So I had difficulty checking online. I have to do it at the airport. So what I did, I arrived 2 hours prior to my flight in the airport in the Bergen International Airport. So I registered, I checked in, and then the lady at the counter told me that she could only check me in for my flight from Bergen, Norway to Copenhagen, Denmark. Afterwards, I have to check in again in the check-in counter in Copenhagen for my flight moving forward to Singapore. So when I arrived in Copenhagen, Denmark, everything seemed pretty normal. People were, traveling left and right. I even saw one of my friends from Trondheim, where I used to live in Trondheim, Norway, a year and a half ago. We saw each other in Copenhagen, Denmark. So she was traveling, I was traveling. We just crossed paths with each other. So things seemed pretty normal, except that people were wearing masks, most of them anyway. So I checked in Copenhagen, Denmark for my flight from Denmark to Singapore, and I requested the check-in counter crew if they can connect my flights from Copenhagen to Singapore and then Singapore to Cebu, Philippines, since Singapore Airlines and Scoot belong to the same company. So they did that. They gave me my 2 boarding passes, so I don't need to check in again when I transit in Singapore, which is very important because, again, in Singapore, you have to have a ticket that says transit. You have to have a boarding pass that says transit in order for you to transit smoothly. Otherwise, you would have to check, you have to, disembark and then pull out your luggage, check in again, and it will take a lot more time. So anyway, since God gave me the grace to be able to, have that thing smoothed out, so I traveled all the way from Denmark to Singapore and then had a transit time in between. It was not, I would say it was quite stressful because of things happening like, not, it was expected, but I didn't realize that it was that strict. So I felt like, in this book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, he discussed there that there are some countries, there are some communities or even companies that don't trust you. That's why there are more protocols, more bureaucracy, and things slow down because of that lack of trust. And I understand because Singapore has a high case of COVID cases for that matter. So anyway, I was able to hop on my flight from Singapore to Cebu, Philippines. When I arrived in the Philippines, I was surprised actually that the process was smoother. It was even faster. I felt that it was even more efficient because I've experienced, traveling to Norway, back to Norway, and then the succeeding swab that happened. And like in Singapore, the transit, what happened, and then now I'm back to I got to the Philippines, and then the succeeding swab and the entry regulations. So what to expect when I arrived in Cebu? I disembarked from the plane, and then they asked me, "Do you have your face shield?" Because that time, since I was in the plane, I was just wearing a face mask, not the face shield. I was wearing glasses, and then I have this disposable mask, and sometimes my glasses get foggy as I breathe because there's a gap in between the mask and my face, so my glasses get foggy, and it's so uncomfortable. If I put the face shield, everything will be foggy. So I didn't put it on. And then when they asked me, "Do you have your face shield?" Yes, I have it. So can you put it on? I put it on. Because if I didn't have the face shield, I will be stalled. I will be put at the back of the line because they would have to ask, do some things. So anyway, since I have that, I proceeded. And then there was a briefing hosted by the Bureau of Quarantine. So one of their crew, I believe she was a nurse, at the same time one of their officers, who briefed us about the green countries, about the protocols, what we would expect during the isolation period. So this is what she said. If the country that you came from is not on the green list as per BOQ, or Bureau of Quarantine, then you are not on the green list. So although for me, I came from Norway. Norway became an open country just last weekend, or even the weekend before last weekend. So although it was for us green listed already, but BOQ has a different list. They made their list on the 30th of September, which will be valid from the 1st of October until the 15th of October. So that makes Norway in the yellow list, not on the green list. So the green list would include Poland, Andorra's, the islands like Cook Islands, Marshall Islands. So those countries, I believe there are 49 countries listed in that green zone. So you can just check it out in Google, like Bureau of Quarantine green list countries. So since my country, Norway, is not in that list, I am on the yellow zone. That means my quarantine period will be minimum of 10 days in a hotel facility. So for those who come from a green listed country and were fully vaccinated already, then their quarantine period is shortened to 7 days. But for me, yellow zone, though fully vaccinated, it's the same as those who were not fully vaccinated. So that would be minimum 10 days in a hotel facility, and then another 4 days in my final destination, which is in Tacloban. I would do my quarantine there, the remaining 4 days. So that's the story. I know there are rigorous process, but aside from that, prior to arriving here in Cebu, I made sure that I have the checklist on hand. So what are the checklists? In order for your travel not to be stalled, for things to be smooth and efficient for you, to save yourself of the hassle. So it's important that prior to your travel, you would have this documents filled out. First, and I believe the most important, is that the airport where you are going to disembark in the Philippines from your international flight, you have to register for your entry. So I did register here in Mactan, Cebu. So this is my registration. I received a barcode. So it's Mactan Cebu International Airport. The Scoot airline gave me a link. I just clicked it and then filled it up 3 days before I came here. So I have now the barcode. This will be the basis for the swab test. This will be the basis for them to identify me as I arrive in Cebu. So aside from that, I also registered my health declaration with Bureau of Quarantine. So prior to my flight in Singapore Airlines, in the check-in counter, they asked me, have you filled out the Bureau of Quarantine's health declaration? Do you have the Trace app? So I did that while I was in Copenhagen. I did that hastily because the internet was still good. So I filled that up. I have this QR code from Bureau of Quarantine. It's my health declaration. For those who don't know, you just go to Google, just type Health Declaration Philippines, and then this one will pop up. It's from Bureau of Quarantine. And then next is I registered myself in the Trace app. I have another QR code. But these two, both the BOQ health declaration and this Trace app, they didn't require from me when I arrived here in Cebu. They only required the airport registration, which I showed you earlier. So aside from that, I also had my booking with my hotel, because as soon as I arrived, they asked, do you have a hotel booking at least 7 days? So I did a 7-day booking through booking.com, because the beauty of booking.com, if you choose like the hotel room which has a cancellation policy 48 hours prior to your first day of coming, then you can cancel it at no cost. So which is what I did. In case something happens, then I can just cancel 48 hours before. However, I pushed through, so I didn't cancel. I have 7 days, and I just booked extra. I mean, it wasn't 7 days, it was 8 days, 7 nights. So I just booked extra 2 more days. And then yesterday, after I found out that I am on the 10-day quarantine list, so I booked my flight already from Cebu to Tacloban yesterday, because I knew that it was already final. It's 10 days instead of 7 days. So those things smoothened out. I'm in my day 2 of quarantine here in Cebu. So I would continue to update you of my quarantine tales. I don't know. I know this is not exciting for many people because they dread being locked up in a hotel as if they were in prison. But it's not. If you have a work from home setup, like if you have a business, you have a side gig, side hustle, or you could work from wherever you are, just from your phone or your laptop, then this setup is convenient. There's totally no distractions. You can focus on your work or on your business. Like in my case, I have a work from home business. I can just focus my time in doing that, looking for people, looking for partners internationally, expand my business during quarantine. And funny, that is exactly what's happening. It's just the second day of my quarantine, and I've been having a lot of orders of my facial gadgets like this Lumispa, because I showed in my story like this is how I clean my dirty face from being airborne for 24 hours. And then somebody already inquired, how can I buy that, and so on. So I believe if you have the desire to come back to the Philippines to visit your loved one, I believe that desire is not just from you, but it's from God. Because God will honor the intentions of your heart, especially if it's something that will bless other people other than yourself. So for me, my intention was just to surprise my mom on her birthday, which is happening in 2 weeks. That's just my desire. It's not even for business. Business is just secondary. And then God is blessing my business even right at this moment. So if you are in the same position, you are wishing or you're hoping to be with your family on an important occasion, whether that's a special occasion or not, then I do encourage you to just follow your heart. And when you have that peace that transcends all understanding, you know that it comes from God. And He will bless you. There's going to be favor that will follow you, even though you haven't figured out everything yet. But God will bless the intentions of your heart. So I hope this encourages you. If you believe that this is a blessing for you, or if you believe that this will bless someone that you know who wants to be a Balikbayan, who's not an OFW like me, then please share this video. I would love to hear from you. Drop me a comment or drop me a private message. I can be reached through my Instagram and Facebook with my name, Fedora Young. So have a great day, everyone, and see you again for my next quarantine tales. God bless. Bye-bye.